Hi everyone. You're welcome to another episode of the TechBiz webinar, of the EIT webinar, sorry. It's indeed a pleasure to be hosting another interesting and exciting episode of the Equations of Technology webinar. And trust me, this is going to be a bit different and even more value-filled compared to other previous webinar we've had around helping to accelerate tech talent. So before I go on, I would just like to give a brief introduction about myself. I'm Victor. I manage programs and learning at ECO Institute of Technology. ECO Institute of Technology is a workforce talent development institute that is focused on building and accelerating tech talent and an employability ecosystem. And we've done that via various tech learning programs at Equations of Technology, running for like 2 years now via our boot camps, master classes, and even one of our initiatives, the EIT webinar that we do month in basis to help young people, get the right footing and positioning to gaining opportunities and also kickstarting their career in tech. So it's indeed a pleasure to have you all joining us across various platforms on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So today webinar will be focused around personal branding. Let me just give you a brief insight to that personal branding. And the topic is focused around building an effective portfolio for career repositioning in tech, building an effective portfolio for career positioning in tech. And why is this very, very important? So we're talking around, young people looking at branding themselves, young people looking at getting to get effective portfolio, getting to build portfolio for themselves as a tech talent. Like myself, I've been able to leverage my portfolio to gain numerous opportunities, and this is very important. So we have people joining our tech learning programs, and they are able to get these skills, they're able to upskill, they're able to reskill, but they have a major challenge. And the major challenge is how are they able to leverage their portfolio? How are they able to build an effective portfolio for career positioning? That is, how are they able to use this portfolio to unlock and maximize the opportunities in the tech space? And talking about various opportunities in today's rapidly evolving tech industry. So having a very strong and effective portfolio is very essential for career positioning and growth. A well-crafted portfolio not only showcases your skills and achievements, but also demonstrates your potential to add value to potential employers and clients. And here with me are two expert professionals in the space. I have Isaac Oladipupo, who is the senior product marketing manager at, I don't know how to pronounce it, is it Mozn, or I don't know. And I also have Faith Dike, who is senior product manager at Peppa. So these people are, professionals in the tech, ecosystem. They've done a couple with vast number of experience. So I'll be giving the floor to the speakers to give a brief introduction about themselves, and then we can dive into today's conversation around building an effective portfolio for career positioning in tech. Thank you very much, Isaac. Thank you very much, Faith, for joining on the call. It's indeed a pleasure to have you on board. So I don't know, Isaac, if you'd like to give a brief introduction as we get started with today's section. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter, for that interesting introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I always like to add value wherever I can. And of course, kudos to the Institute also for hosting this, the ECO Institute of Technology for hosting this. I always say that talent is really never enough, only skills bring success. So it's interesting. I mean, that's why I would always say yes to a platform like this. So for me, well, I basically started out as which is why I find this topic very interesting, because 5 years before now, I wasn't in tech. I started out as a journalist, wrote my first book at 18. I actually grew up reading a lot of books, reading voraciously because of kind of friends around me. And I read so much that by the time I was 18, I had written and published my first book, which actually found its way into the hands of a publisher, and then got me a job in a nutshell. So from that position, I worked as a journalist for like 3 years, and then from there I moved to a digital marketing position. And then sometime about 2 years ago, I was endorsed for the Global Talent Visa, right? So I would say at some points, I founded a startup called Learn, which is one of the leading edtech firms in the country at the moment in Nigeria. Yeah. And of course, after traveling to the UK, I took up a role as a senior product marketing manager at a fintech company in Saudi Arabia called Mozn. Yeah, so I think I'll just keep it that way for now, and then we can take it for that from there. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Isaac, for that fantastic introduction. You've been able to tell us about your background and the amazing work you've done. I read your profile. I have one of my colleague who is also a product manager and was like, reach out to Isaac. He has done a couple, in the field of product management. I'm looking at your profile, I was wow, and I was like, I would like to have you, share out of the wealth of experience and background with our audience. It's really a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you very much. And here with me is Faith, Dike. Faith. We like to do a brief introduction as we get started. Thank you.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Faith. I'm a product manager at Peppa. I didn't start out being a product manager, to be honest. I just was one very curious person when I was in school. And I was really curious because I wanted to do more. And I know that there's more that can actually be tech. And because also my dad did a great job of introducing me to computers when I was very small. So I had a computer when I was like 8 years. And I used to play around with my computers a lot. Right. So that kind of sparked my curiosity about trying to figure out how this thing works. And then I also enjoy playing games. I play games a lot. So I'm always trying to understand, like, how does it work? Right. So because of that curiosity, I find myself in computer science. I studied computer science in school. But then I realized that what I was learning was not enough. I knew it couldn't get me to where I wanted to be. So what I decided to do was I kind of now I find myself around some communities, like things like GDG, Women Technicals when I was in school. At some point, I became a Microsoft student partner, all because I wanted to associate with the current trends in technology, and then knew how I could match myself up, right? And so that kind of helped me a lot. And so when I got out of school, I would say it wasn't as hard as trying to get a job, because I already started doing a couple of things in the tech community, right? And so that helped me, and that has shaped my career path up until now. Even if I didn't start as a product manager, I think I started out being a dev, right? But then that kind of just shaped my career up until this point. Everything I've learned over time, managing people. I mean, when you're managing a community, you get what I'm saying? And then being a dev who is now managing a technical product. So that kind of just shaped everything. So yeah, so that's more like me in a nutshell and how I got to where I am now.
Wow, thank you very much, Faith, for that fantastic introduction. I think it's we've had the experience of many people coming in on board, and I tell a lot of people at times that you don't really need to have a technical background, or you don't need to have always dream of being in tech for you to get into tech. And we've had a couple of experience with many of some of the panelists, speakers we posted on this platform, talking about how probably they were working in sales and now they find themselves in tech, or they were doing something entirely different from a tech skill, like a product manager, a software engineer, a data analyst. And it's very exciting to get those insights from many of our speakers. And even for those that are joining in, this is just like a call that you necessarily don't have to have a technical background. You can get started now and transition in tech, and years from now you're going to be excited about your growth as well. So I'll just dive in because of time. I'll just dive into today's conversation, which is around effective portfolio, that is building a portfolio for career positioning in tech. So I'm gonna start with Isaac. So what were some of the key experiences and skills that help you position yourself for success in the tech industry? So we know that it might not be an easy ride, either transitioning into tech or positioning yourself for tech opportunities. So I don't know if you'd like to share with us your key experiences and skills that help you position yourself for success, for success in the tech industry. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. Well, I would say I would really connect it from where Faith stopped, really. And I think it has to do with curiosity. And for me, that curiosity I was actually more specific into wanting to solve a problem, right? I've always been big about problems, even before we started hearing phrases like if you want to make money, don't look for money, find a problem to solve. Before those kind of phrases got popular, I've always been one person that has always been very passionate about building something, so my life really has been about building stuff. When I was in school, I was organizing the largest conference in my school, which was free. That really got me accustomed to learning to know a lot of people. One of the greatest assets I have today really are people. I have quite an extensive network of people, and all of that basically because of the things I started doing when I was an undergrad. Organizing programs, and from there I remember publishing a magazine. That was never profitable. That failed really woefully. Right, but all through that period, I was building relationships, and that's why for me, the starting point would always be start by building relationships, right? Because irrespective of what you want to achieve in tech, with your tech career, you really can't do any of it without people, right? So that then led to founding AfriLearn, really, because even being an SPMM today really was vis-a-vis also founding AfriLearn, right? Because founding AfriLearn served as a leverage that such that last year I was endorsed for the Global Talent Visa, right? So in terms of answering that question really particularly, I would say having a rich network really helps, because ultimately, whether you are pivoting to tech or you're trying to master any tech skill, you really can't do it without people, so you need mentors, right? You need networks, you need to be amongst people who are already doing what you want to do, so if you really want to do anything in this life, that you have never done before, the fastest way to get into do that thing really is finding people who are already doing it, and then of course building relationships, valuable relationships, not a parasitic one, with them, and then over time, of course, nobody runs away from value. When people say that, okay, you are here to render and offer value, and you're really you're deliberate on offering value, not just looking for what you want to get, right? Eventually that value circles round, and then once you start picking up the nuances, the skills, the knowledge, it's just a matter of time. You'd also get there. Yeah. So for me, it started that way, right? And then so after I left Nigeria, of course, I'm still building my startup, but then of course, you can't be in a new country with a new currency and be changing naira into pounds, right? So I had to also take up a role, right? And then what I did was very simple. Just ask myself two questions. What are my top skills? Because prior to that time, I've been a journalist, I've been a digital marketer, and then I've been a founder of an edtech company, right? So I was like, okay, how do I tap into this economy? So it was very simple. So what have been my biggest accomplishments? First was working as a digital marketer, where I actually grew the organization's following from about 20,000 to over 500,000 in 3 years, right? That's a huge accomplishment. And that was leading the team, hiring people for the organization, and of course, doing all this strategy and actually taking it from ideas to execution, right? And that accomplishment is there today, right? So I was like, okay, so I have marketing experience. Secondly, I have some product experience building AfriLearn, so product marketing. And then I put all my CV together, started applying. And then before I knew it, I got 3 offers, right? I had to decline 2 and then went for the best one, that offered the most advantages money-wise and otherwise. Yeah. So that's basically what I would say to that. Leverage relationships. Relationships will turn to opportunities to serve, and then opportunities to serve will definitely bring you more opportunities for the kind of work that you're looking for. And that's how it happened for me, really.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Wow. Yeah, so I believe Isaac already did a touch point around some of the important concepts around how you can position yourself for opportunities in the space, and even how you can leverage your portfolio. Like I saw the accomplishment of helping with 20,000, from 20,000 to 500,000, if I'm not making a mistake, and I'm like, wow. These are some of the things that count when you want to position yourself out there for opportunities. These are things that count for your own portfolio, for your own personal portfolio, because you can be in an interview. Your portfolio doesn't necessarily have to be maybe you have a digital page, or you have a website where you put in your project and all of that. Your portfolio can also be reflected in your accomplishment. Like your accomplishment can be reflected in your portfolio. I don't know. It's kind of a bit interdependent. So you can be in an interview now and you can put yourself out there. Like me being a recruiter now, you telling me, oh, working as a marketer or working as a product marketing person, you were able to achieve this particular milestone. These are things that actually speak for itself. And it's great hearing from you about your journey, Isaac, and how you've also leveraged your own platform as well, your own learning platform as well. So I'm just going to move on to Pete. Want to hear your own perspective about how how people in tech, or let me put it, tech enthusiasts or tech professionals, how they can build an effective portfolio. So you can tell us about your journey, although you shared a bit background about your journey, how you get started from having access to a computer at a very young age, and then transitioning into product management. So I don't know if you could share a bit around your journey as a product manager, and how you've built an effective portfolio for career positioning as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I think I'm just going to piggyback on what Isaac mentioned. So people, especially in tech, it plays a great role. And the reason why I say so is I have people that it could be that we were in the same community when I was in school, talking about 5-6 years ago, and then we are still friends now. They're all in tech, and all it takes is a word. Hey, what's up? What's happening here? Or I know this. Or people are your greatest asset, right? And then you need to leverage that. And then you have to build a very good relationship with them. So you don't want to go burning bridges up and down because of maybe XYZ reasons. So it's great that you would how would I put it? You preserve those relationships, because it's always profitable in future. I know a couple of people that I've had to call because they did something maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and then it just came to my mind that this person did this, right? Because of that. So I would say for me, right, how I got to where I am right now and how I've positioned myself as a product manager is a couple of things. I was very active in community building and stuff when I was in school. But then I think I got to a point where I actually wanted to just solely block out and just focus on growing my career, right? So I got to a point where I'd moved up with, knowing 1 or 2 people. That's one, but then be conscious about trying to build your career. So, and then mapping out the path that you'd want to go. So for example, when I left school, right, I started as a project manager. But then when I was in that company I think I was there for a couple of months, but I realized that I needed to just be more than being a project manager. I actually wanted to influence my product, right? And for me to function from product, for me, place of influence, I had to be a product manager to do that, because the problems that you see come up, and then you kind of maybe do 1 or 2 research, and you can see that there are better ways to solve that problem. But then because of the role that you're playing, you might be restricted. Right. So because I actually wanted to influence the product I was working on, so it was more a conscious effort. And then I started picking up materials and a lot of learnings online. I took a lot of courses just because I actually wanted to just get this knowledge for myself, because knowing people is not enough. You actually have to know your stuff, because, for example, I can put out a referral and then you go out there and then you flop because you don't know your stuff. So people might get you to the door, right? But then actually knowing your stuff would get you through it. You get? So I would say that I had to put those learnings in place, and I had to be very conscious. I'm also conscious about where I work at. So I might say, okay, I want to work at a certain place because I'm a very passionate person. So I'm also passionate about my job. So if I don't like what I'm doing, it's hard for me to function. So I need to be very particular of where next I'm headed or where I currently am. So that it kind of just helps me to just make the right decisions in terms of my career. So I'm not just going to jump on any offer because it's good, right? I'm going to jump on it because I know that it aligns with my own personal goals, right? My own personal ambition. Because I remember once I was working in an organization, and then I think after like a year or thereabout, the company decided to transition. So what they were transitioning into, it wasn't something that I bought into, right? It was not like a great company, like they let go of a lot of people, we're hiring fresh people, and then I was still kept on the team. But then to me, it was like, if I do this because of the money, I may end up being like sad on this role. I may just do it as a routine, right? When you just have to resume and then it's just a routine stuff. I don't want to work as a routine staff, right? So I decided to leave. It was a conscious effort because I knew that if I stayed there, I may not grow, because I need to be in a position where I'm constantly growing and learning, because it's very important to me as a product manager. And I'm not just learning for myself alone. I also learn from the kind of staff that I work with. I love working with engineering because, remember I said I was a dev at some point, so I still enjoy engineering. Like I still enjoy that whole problem solving stuff, right? So it's like you have to be very conscious. You don't just have to jump on anything that comes, or maybe that's the moving train. Maybe, for example, product management is the in thing right now, and then you jump into being a product manager because that's what people see. You have to be very conscious about it and then keep at it. You have to actually keep at it, spend time on it. And I believe that in a couple of years, you realize that it's going to pay off. It might not pay off immediately. You might think that, oh, I'm just doing it right now. I'm just doing it right now. And then I can't really see I can't really see the fruit of what I'm doing. But once you keep at it, in a couple of years, you forget that you started out at some point. So yeah. I think you're muted. So
Yeah, you're muted, Victor.
Sorry. Yeah. So I said at some point I lost a bit connection, but I was able to get the details of you sharing your experience, and also how you've been able to like position yourself for career success in the industry as well. Really fantastic one, and I believe many people joining us across platform are getting insights. Feel free to drop your questions. If you join on LinkedIn, if you join on Twitter, drop your questions. People joining on Zoom will be here to take up questions that you'll be having. Yeah, so thanks for that, Faith. Great one. Although I'm still coming back to ask some questions around what you shared, but I'm gonna go on to Isaac. For Isaac, I would like to talk about your educational certification.
Ouch.
I think network.
In the
Oh, wow. Victor, I think you're breaking.
about tech, yeah, but I know there are some important to point out. It's about how the education so gets insights. I don't
Sorry, Victor, I didn't get a question. I think that the network is quite dodgy at your end. So if you could please repeat the question, or possibly maybe type it in the chat box. Okay, Victor is.
Wow. Sorry, I got disconnected. So I'm just going to go on to the question now. So the question would be, what role has some of the education? So I was trying to talk about the nexus between, going in for training programs or boot camps, and what role has it played in your career journey, particularly in building an effective portfolio and This is important, not just because of, the learning itself, but how, we're able to apply the learning and some of the important, component that the learning comes with. Like, for instance, now at EIT, we are not just big on the technical skill acquisition. We have the soft skill aspect whereby we help young people. Like, for instance, now you want to be a product manager, it's very important for you to have a great communication skill. And this might be lacking from people that might just go on there to, take either personal learning. So how are we able to help them to, amplify their communication skill as a tech person? Or how are they able to work with team? So this is some of the things that I'm looking at. Yes. So I'll just, like you to just help share around how some of the education you've had. I could see you did a program with product school. I also did a program with product school last year. What has this certification played in your career journey, particularly in building an effective portfolio? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I think I get the question now. Well, that's a very powerful question, by the way, right? My answer may not be popular, right? I think Nigeria is a great country, but I think that to a large extent, our education system more or less takes us back to the past than it does prepare us for the future, to be very sincere. So I'll give you a classical example. Most of the things I do today are very unconnected to what I studied in school, right? What that simply means is that if I did not self-educate after my master's degree, I definitely will not be doing what I do today, right? So that's not to say the regular education is not important. I think it's definitely plays a role. But I also think that our curriculum needs to be revamped. We need to rethink what we call education, particularly in terms of the value it offers to the current realities of the society, right? So for me, of course, for my first degree, I studied management technology, which was a 5-year course. And then afterwards, I did a master's degree at University of Lagos, International Relations and Public Affairs. Yeah. So, but when I got it, after all of that, I had to go back to school. When I, of course, decided that I wanted to pivot into tech. And the first place I really went was product school, right? And what product school did for me really is to help me understand how building a product actually works. It's completely different from building a business, right? There are two different things, entirely different things, how to understand, how to research a market, for instance, before you even try to put out any products, how to really know whether there's a market for the products, how to research your audience, how to do competitive analysis, survey people, get feedback. I'm sure Fitz can relate to all of these things, right? Because she's more, yeah. So what I would say really is, when it comes to building your tech career or your tech portfolio, there are two skills that really matter. The technical skills matter and the soft skills also matter. Of course, as you climb the ladder eventually though, you need more of your people skill, leadership skills, how to manage people and all of that. But at the start, which is where I think our audience holds more priority for our current audience. At the start, you need to be very good technically. Faith mentioned something earlier that beyond knowing people, you need to also know your onions, right? Because truthfully, relationships can get you in the door, but what's not only even, keeps you there, but keeps you there for long is actually how good you are, because, nobody's ready to pay for anyone's talents in their raw form. People want you to be able to come, and in fact, as a matter of fact, when it comes to building your tech portfolio, it's not just about how good the branding is, right? Because it's one thing to get that job once, but what really matters, what you really want, is to be able to do a job and have people call you back over and again. That's when you have a career, right? So what I would say is, yes, my education, my degree and master's education were good. At least they offered me a good start. But in terms of what's really got me here and then what has helped me or what is helping me do what I do today, I would say has been the additional education that I went to get by myself, both at product school, learning how to build products, and also now learn product marketing, which is one of the very critical skills that startups and companies need today. The way we even market generally, in Nigeria in some quarters is not it, right? So the curriculum keeps changing every day, especially if you want the best results for your product or for your company, right? So ultimately, education, I mean, going to school is fantastic, but I think that what really matters is when you know where you are headed, look for all the right skills, and then look for where to get that knowledge, because ultimately, nothing empowers like knowledge. In fact, it is investment in knowledge that's ultimately results extraordinary accomplishments, So so I would definitely advocate for people to go for technical skills and soft skills, to build their profile, to build their portfolio, and of course to get out there and start doing stuff, because ultimately one of the things that makes a portfolio strong really is not just the words that you have there or the designs. Really, it is the quality of the work that you've done and the result of that work, right? So even when you're going to get anything out there, for instance, you want to apply for stuff, people are not just looking for the certification that you have, they're looking for the results that you can produce. And even when companies are going to hire you, they're not looking for your certification. No, I know people, for instance, who have never been to any school, right? They just went and learned the skills online, right? Some of them went to practical schools like Product School, Product Alliance. And because they can do the job, right, they are well paid and they are in high demand, right? So I would say people should prioritize those kind of skills, especially nowadays, right? Because nowadays, even in Nigeria, you find people who are not doing anything with their certificates, right? Who are building powerful products. Why? Because they've learned skills that are relevant for today's markets, and they are able to exchange that for great value. So long and short of the story, yes, build relationships, especially when you're starting out, volunteer and serve resourcefully, because you need to actually process your talent into skills, for you to attract opportunities, because it is skills that deliver the value. But much more than that, ensure that those skills are able to deliver powerful results. Once you get to that point, you become literally unstoppable. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much for that. Comprehensive dive into the role of education and certification in building an effective portfolio. I think you already hit the nail on the head. For instance, we have a couple of people in our tech learning programs, like our product squads. There are medical doctors, some are lawyers, some are people that even do professional related programs in school, nurses and all of that are willing to transition into becoming a product manager. And that tells that there are in-demand skills out there, and people are now have now gotten more insight as to the in-demand skills and the opportunities out there in the tech industry. And people are trying their best to position themselves for many of these opportunities. So very, very important relationship building as well. And, getting started in your career as a tech person, you get to, do even some freebies, get to volunteer just to be able to get some portfolios out there. Because, in this kind of ecosystem whereby we have people with vast number of experience in this field that are also looking for the same opportunity as you. So for you to be able to get started, it's very important for you to look for projects that you can work on. And some might not be able to pay you for those projects.
Yeah.
Some you might need to work to get those projects. And you doing that project is important, because to get that paid gig you are looking for, you need projects that you've worked on. They need people that have hands-on experience getting things done, and all these have to be in your portfolio to be able to get that big gig you're looking for. Yeah, so thank you for that, Isaac. So I'm just going to go on to Faith, and that would be the aspect of storytelling. What does storytelling play in creating an effective tech portfolio? I know storytelling is very important.
Yeah.
Even as a product manager, you get a lot of storytelling and communication. So for young people, for young professionals, what role does storytelling play in creating an effective tech portfolio? Thank you.
Well, I would say that for storytelling, first I would say is you have to more like put context into the project you worked on, right? For example, if I work on a project and I'm not able to like put into context my role on that particular project that I worked on, the particular problem it was solving, and the impact that product is the impact the product is doing, right? It might not make sense, right? If I don't know how to put these things together, right? And then it's also great to more like you can also build like a narrative around the product that you're working on. Because remember, right, if you're trying to, for example, if I was to work on any product right now, I'll need to ensure that I'm actually doing the right things, right? And aside doing that, you also need to figure out how to put it together. So you must have done a product, delivered it, played your role. And then when it's time to put yourself out there, and then you're being asked maybe questions like, okay, what did you do for XYZ reasons, right? Or what did you do when you had this? It's great to say that, okay, when the product started, we're at this point. But because of XYZ things that I've done, right, you're more like showing the effort that you put in, and then you're also trying to put together what the result of that effort is, right? So doing things is one, and then showing out the result of what you're saying. So more like you have to tell a story. And then I remember those days when we used to write Mozn code presentations and stuff. We used to more like you have to tell like they'll tell you, okay, tell a very empathic story at the beginning so people can get to understand what you're trying to do, right? And then you can move on from that, telling a story, to actually showing the impact of what you're trying to do. So that's one thing, right? And then something else, it'd be good to like highlight your personal growth. So for example, you might have worked on a particular project, and then you might have had like challenges on that particular project. Now, you may need to have picked up maybe one or two learnings for you to actually get that project to the very end, right? That also, you can also say that, okay, because of this particular project and the challenges that it brought, I was able to level up. Because remember, for every role or for every project you have to take on, it has to some way or the other ensure that you're on the path of growing your personal skills, right? So you can actually go on to say, okay, because of XYZ challenges that I faced, right, I was able to do XYZ in my career. Now I know how to do this. I didn't know how to do this outside of this project, but because of the project, I now know how to do XYZ. I don't know if that puts it into like context. So
Yeah, it does. It does.
yeah.
It does. Amazing. I think storytelling is very important in
Yeah.
literally many aspects of our lives. Like very, very important. Even myself as a young professional, I've had to learn about I've had to like ensure that I improve my storytelling skill, because I realized that many of my work revolve around telling a story, either as an entrepreneur, as a professional. You're seeking for an opportunity, and an hiring manager or a potential client is reaching out to you for an opportunity or for a gig. You need to be able to tell a story around, okay, how you've been able to like get a particular work done, the results, and how you can even fit into the opportunity that either the recruiter or the potential client is looking for. So storytelling is very, very, very important. Very, very important. I don't know if Isaac has something to say relating to that. Before I just move on to.
Well, if you get me to talk about storytelling, I might not leave here today because I mean, I think Faith really has touched up on the most important things, because it's also one thing to tell stories, and that's to tell it the right way. Yeah, because today people also want to jump on the bandwagon of how to tell stories. But at the end of the day, you just read a story and like, okay, what value has this added to me, right? So picking the nuances, the core nuances from what Faith has said, I think it's very, very vital. Like, okay, what is the purpose of the story you're telling? Yeah, storytelling is critically important. There's no doubt about that. As a matter of fact, I think that personally, I think that storytelling today, in today's world, is the most underrated business skill. Even businesses are not telling stories enough. People just want to sell at you. Meanwhile, see, as human beings, we are first creatures of emotions before we are creators of facts. Most people would buy stuff by emotions than by logic or facts. Yeah. So when you are telling a story, you must definitely have a goal in mind, yeah, because storytelling plays a very critical role particularly in building an effective tech portfolio, So, but then it involves providing context, like you said, and very deep insights into the problem-solving process and the impacts you have brought to bear on several projects, right? Because at the end of the day, when someone reads that story, you want them to be able to come and say, oh, wow, so Faith did this. Wow, I need this person that can solve this problem on my team. And that's how impact happens, right? So I'll just stop there for now, really.
All right. Thank you for that, I think I'll now go on to your own question. And that would be, how can candidates tailor their portfolio to match the specific job they're applying for? So, so I think one major challenge I've seen with young talent or young tech talent is they really don't know how to tailor their portfolio to match the specific job. Some have a single portfolio for literally multiple jobs. For instance, a product manager, for instance, I know some people can be multi-potential, like some might be good in the aspect of product management, some might be good in the aspect of product marketing management. And that same person is having the same portfolio, or maybe when I talk about portfolio, it encompasses a lot. And the person is positioning the same portfolio for almost 50 opportunities. So I don't know, based on your own experience, how can candidates tailor their portfolios to match the specific opportunities they are applying for? Thank you.
Yeah, so the first thing I like to say really is that when you apply for anything, whether a job or a contract, as a tech talent, one thing is for sure, you're not the only one applying for that role, right? So tailoring a portfolio to match a specific job is one of the most powerful ways for you to stand out and to increase your chances of getting hired, for that job or for that role or for that project, whatever it is. So I think I even did a video on this on my YouTube channel. So while there are definitely many steps, for me, I think it starts with researching this particular company or the industry, So the best way to fail really is to have one portfolio and send it to every single opportunity that you want to attract, right? It's a way to fail. So for instance, just like asking myself a question, maybe as an employer, really, for instance, recently I had some people at AfriLearn, and we were looking to bring gamification into the product. So we're looking for people who have gamification experience. At the end of the day, we went for those who were able to align their CV and their experiences with gamification. It's as simple as that. So you want to research the company and the industry, and then tailor your portfolio effectively, So people looking to that should definitely research the company and the industry, and then review the company's website, for instance, their social media profiles. Particularly if they have any recent news or press release, go through them. They would help you. Those are facts that you can use against your competitors who are also applying for the same role. So look for the keywords, the phrases, the themes, basically common things that you can find, and then find a way to incorporate that into your portfolio, right? When you do this, you stand a far higher chance, right? The next thing you want to do is analyze the job description, look for specific examples of projects and technologies. If you are a developer, look for the tech stacks that they mention in the job description, and then highlight relevant projects and experiences that demonstrate your proficiency and your results in those areas. So for instance, they are looking for someone who works with React.js and stuff like that. Look for products that you've done that aligns with that have delivered fantastic results, right? So if I was looking for a job now, I will talk about some of the most powerful things I've done that aligns with what that job is looking for, like what that role is looking to do, really. So basically, by customizing your portfolio in this manner to match the job description, you definitely show that you have the skill and the experience needed for the job. Because what any organization or employer is looking for really is not just to come and pay you salary. They are looking for people to solve the problem that they have, right? So you have to go over and beyond by providing additional materials that showcase your skills and experience. At times, of course, you can also include a short video that demonstrates a technical skill, or maybe a case study, that highlights your problem-solving abilities, right? But more importantly, also focus on results. Like, you can never fail with that. People love results, because one of the constant mistakes I see personally in portfolios and CVs. You find people looking for jobs, and all they have written on their job roles, past experiences, are basically job descriptions, right? That's a way to fail. So what you want to do is, and I said that there's a difference between a job description and job accomplishment and results. So what you want to have in your CV, every single line, accomplishment, the results. Okay, I joined this organization on this date. Based on my role, I moved them from point A to point B. Use statistics, use percentages, the results that you basically brought to bear. When I was talking earlier, I said I grew an organization's online profile from 20,000 to over 500,000. If you are looking for someone to grow your organization, and you hear that, you want to grab me immediately, yeah? So that's basically what I'll say. So I don't take all that time. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. I think you've touched around the important areas as it relates to positioning portfolio for opportunities, specific opportunities. I also wanted to ask Faith a question around that, and that's because looking at our professional background, I could see that you've done a couple different industry. So I don't know if you would like to share one or two around how young professionals can also tailor their portfolio to match specific opportunities. Like you've done a couple of stuff in various industries. So how are you able to tailor your portfolio to showcase your experience and also to be able to stand out in the tech industry? I don't know if you'd like to share some point. Thank you.
Okay, so I think Isaac did a great job. But what I would like to say is simple, right? So for example, if I were to say a role, maybe in a fintech company, because I think fintech feels like the end thing. I think I'm the only person who's not interested in fintech at this point, right? But like if I was to say a role for a fintech company, for example, right, I would ideally check out the company, look through the JD that maybe that I found, look at what the company is doing. I go on a social media. I just more like I even look at people that are already working in an organization, how long they've worked there. So there are a couple of things that you can actually pick from just doing like a search, right, on this organization, so that you even know that what exactly, because there's sometimes you hear people say things like, oh, I applied for this particular job, they told me this, and this is what happened at the end of the day when I joined. But then if you actually do your proper research, you'd actually know what exactly happens in the organization. You have a lot of information out there to play around with. And even when you are like presented, let's say you come in front of your interview, stuff like that, you have the liberty to ask questions. And there are people who have interviewed in the past where you ask them, do you have a question for us? And they tell you no, right? So you have that room to ask a lot of questions about the organization. If I see someone who is asking me questions about my organization on an interview, I'll be very curious, because I believe that you have done your study of that particular company, right? And then from your study, you can actually say, because of my experience when I worked at XYZ and what I did for them, XYZ, this is how I can, right? Because maybe you might have even used their product, right? And then you might have seen one or two lapses. And I mean, that's where you even want to even sell yourself the most. So I have used product ABC, and then I use your product, and this is what I thought when I did this. If you could, you get what I'm saying? So when you're actually giving them like actual insight, so they're even leaving whether it's technical or not, and they're like, oh, you're already giving us feedback on the product that we want to hire you on, right? It means that you've done your job, right? Of trying to, you have to be, how do I put it? You have to be detailed. You have to be conscious about the rules you're applying for. You cannot just say, maybe because you're trying to hit a number, I applied to 300 companies in a month. Well, that's a number, right? For all I care. But then if that number is not converting, it means there's something you're doing wrong. You can't apply to 300 companies and don't get a response. The question is, what am I doing right, or what am I doing wrong? If you're applying to 300 companies and I get maybe like only 10 or 5, then you're actually doing something wrong in either how you're managing yourself. Just like Isaac said, when you have one CV and then use the same CV to apply to 10 companies, some companies working in e-commerce, the other one's working in fintech, the other one's working, and then you're using the same CV, same thing, same cover letter. You're not looking at the company, you're not looking at one or two things, even in the JD you were given, because they will actually tell you, okay, we want someone to do X, Y, Z. So you should be presenting those particular skills that are for that job, especially if you've done it before. So it's easy to even say, okay, when I worked on an XYZ product that was similar to the product I'm working on, it begins to make sense to anyone who's interviewing you. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Wow, thanks for that. great addition, Faith. Yeah, I think both Faith and Isaac already like give justice to the aspect of how you can better tailor your portfolio for every given specific opportunities. So I'm just going to go on because we have just limited time and we're rounding up very soon. So I'm just going to go on with this question, and that's to Isaac, and that would be what's common mistakes. So touch points around many important areas on how you can, build an effective portfolio, how you can position yourself out there for opportunities. So what are those common mistakes? I think this should cover, some important aspects of portfolio building. So what common mistakes do candidates make when building their portfolio? That's tech portfolios, and how do you think they can avoid these mistakes?
Well, thank you very much. I think the mistakes are pretty much obvious. The first thing really is that most people don't talk about their what they do. They don't storytell online. They don't leverage digital media, digital social media, So you see people who want to build, their vision is their career goal is to build, is probably be a senior product manager, right? Meanwhile, if you go to their social media platforms, they are basically slouchy, it's not organized and stuff like that, We live in a world now where the same way we see ourselves physically, we also actually have digital identities, right? So when people are looking to hire, they don't just talk to you, they go and research about you, right? So that's the first part, not leveraging social media the right way, right? Of course, that does not mean that you can't have fun on social media, but it also means that you have to also be deliberate about the kind of things you share, how you add value, how you position yourself, across your social media platform. The second thing I see would be lack of focus, so candidates need to ensure that their portfolio is targeted towards the specific job that they're applying for, and highlight their relevant skills and experiences, in alignment with what it is they want to achieve, right? Because a portfolio that is too broad, if you are trying to do, and especially now that you are having even the largest companies are firing people, right? So you want to know what your core strengths are, and you want to align your portfolio to that, because when you are too broad or too general, that can be confusing, because people want to value people have a vision. Every company actually has a vision, and every product also has a vision. So you want to tailor. So that way, even when you are sending your application to just 3 companies, you have much higher chances. Why? Because you're focused, these opportunities are not for you. These are the ones that are for you. Because why? These are your core strengths. For instance, say if you're a product marketer now, there are many, yes, a product marketer can be general, but you can also be focused. So for instance, one of my core strengths really in product marketing is storytelling. So when I see a brand that wants to, I'm a great storyteller and I'm also quite analytical, right? Those are my core strengths. So I try to focus on those core strengths and kind of companies and products that are looking for those core strengths, as opposed to trying to be a generalistic person. You get, the third thing would be poor organization, So this has to do with, not using clear headings and sub-headings, the content of your portfolio is not organized, it's just slouchy, it's not well arranged, and then at times people don't even put context to it, and then lastly, I would say poor design, particularly if you're a product designer and your portfolio does not look creative in any way, right? That's also a very, very huge, turn off, right? And then finally, lack of updates, so when you have a CV, for instance, the CV that I have or the portfolio that I have today is not the portfolio that I had 3 years ago, right? Because as you are learning and as you are working, your portfolio also must get updated in terms of your results, the result you're currently delivering. So formally, I would say I grew an organization from 20,000, but now my results have changed. Now I'm helping powerful companies, global organizations to take their products to markets and to keep it thriving in market. I have results for that as well, right? So your portfolio must constantly get updated. So basically, I think that candidates can avoid or tech talent or potential tech talent can avoid these common mistakes by ensuring that their portfolio is well focused, it is well organized, it provides clear context, and has a professional design that is up to date. So I think that this way we can avoid a lot of mistakes that most people make.
Wow. Yeah, thank you very much, Isaac. Great insights there around the mistake for building the tech portfolio. So I think our time is past spent already, and that's because we live streamed a bit late. So I'm just going to go on to the last question, and that goes on to Faith. Great conversation so far, value filled, insightful. If you have questions, we might not be able to take much questions, but if you have questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box. I can see one or two questions from LinkedIn, or might not be able to take all questions. Apologies. So I will just ask the last question, Faith. That will be, what advice would you give to someone starting their career in tech and looking to build an effective portfolio for career positioning? This is just like, giving a round up. Thank you.
Okay. So I would say the first thing is you need to have technical skills. So it might require that you take up some learnings from maybe Coursera, from Udacity, whatever. You need to have that first technical skill, whatever part you want to be PM, you want to be dev, you want to be data analyst or whatever. You need to at least take one step further, which is learn something right now. But I tell people, don't stop at learning. If you don't put what you've learned into practice, then there's a flaw somewhere, because you can't keep, how much are you going to keep Mozn? How much are you going to keep learning without practicing? Because if you realize that actually as a PM, if you learn, I can take that same knowledge and apply it to project A. But when I'm applying it to project B, it might change. It's changing because of what I learned in project A and the other things I've consumed. So I'm refining how I do things. So if you give me a task, for example, there are things that I refine. So you give me a task A, I'm refining, I'm making it better. So, but then the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm practicing what I'm learning. So I'm taking my learnings and I'm actually practicing it. So I've had people that I mentor tell me things like, oh, I want to build a portfolio. How do I do that? I'm like, you have friends around you who have problems, because see yourself as a problem solver first. You have friends around you. You could just do stuff for free. Now, what you're doing is all the things you've learned. For example, if you're a PM, you learn things like, okay, documentation, flows and stuff like that. You might not build out the product at the very end, but then by the time you've gone through documenting, coming up with flows, maybe even going down to even mapping out wireframes, writing user stories, you realize that you're not even in a better place. Right. And then also remember that you now start asking questions, because remember, as a PM, you need to have that skill. So, for example, it could even be my mom. How do I scale my mom's business, for example? And then you're telling her, okay, so what do you want to do this? So you're already putting what you learned into practice. You don't have to wait until you actually have a job. So if I want to interview junior PMs, I try to find out what exactly you've done. It's not because I don't want to hire you. It's just because I want to see what you're using your spare time doing, because you can't keep learning. So when you've learned, look at people around you that are trying to solve problem. It could even be your friend who has a startup idea but doesn't know how to go about it. It could be a friend who's a dev, right? I know they might not be very good at putting things together. So you cannot just volunteer. Okay, let me help you just put this stuff together. And before you know, you're doing it for person A, you're doing it for person B. I mean, you might even volunteer for someone who says, oh, there's this PM I worked with some time back, and then she did it for free, right? I believe she's a great addition to your team and stuff like that. So you can already see that you will build relationships in the way, right? And then you'd also be practicing what you've learned, because if you do not practice, don't bother consuming content. Really, if you don't plan on putting everything you're learning, I don't know why you're learning them, right? So you need to be conscious about the content that you're consuming, and how do I apply should always be the next thing. Because the more you apply, you refine, you get better and better. I mean, nobody started out being so good. We all started out learning at some point, and then we took out, because the truth is you're going to have failures. You take your failures, take your learnings, and then you ensure that you're building yourself. And something else that'll be good to know is to get feedback. Oh, I worked on what do you think? What do you think I could do better? So be open to getting feedback. Some people don't like taking feedback. It shouldn't be something that you should have in your bag if you actually want to go very far. So you should be open to taking feedback. Or what do you think I can do better? It could be, amongst your friends, even the devs that you worked on a small project, what do you think I could have done better to ensure that this came out better? And then you realize that you get some feedbacks that you can actually work on. And then you realize that in a matter of time, you see yourself improving than just taking stuff without actually putting it into practice. So yeah, so that's what I have to say.
Well, thanks. Thank you very much for that last word on Faith. I think Faith already give a background as to young people that are looking at either building a career in tech and also building an effective portfolio that can help you to better position your career, better position yourself for opportunities in the tech industry. So I could see a couple of questions coming in, but I'll just take one in here that we have in house. I can see. Okay, so Son is asking that as a PM, what platforms would you advise? What platforms would you advise we build our portfolio on, or what are the basic things your portfolio should constitute or contain? I don't know who would like to take that, Isaac, or would you like to take that?
I mean, I can give it a shot, and then I believe Isaac, from his body of knowledge, will be able to add a thing or two. So platforms to build your portfolio on. I mean, so you don't have to get to clinical. You can use Notion. Put up something on Notion, deploy it on a link, and then share. Very simple. Don't try to complicate things, because when you have a way of, sometimes you have a way of making things look very big and then we never do them. So if you just use something as basic as Notion, easy to use, you can actually put pictures, drag tables, make it look very presentable. Basic documenting skills can actually get you that. And truthfully, if you use Notion, put up your stuff together, you already even get your one step in the door, because that's a tool you maybe be using. And then by the time you can also, I can even vet your organization skills from how you put that together. So very basic. And then the things your portfolio should consist of would be maybe things like the project that you've actually worked on and what was your role on that project. So you might have worked on a project and all you had to do was QA, right? It's fine, because even me as a product manager, I still QA my products, right? It doesn't mean that that's my core strength, but I don't want to believe that I want to ship out a product without actually doing my own QA, even if I have a team that is doing that, right? So you need to ensure that, okay, on this particular product, this is what I did. While there was a team of people that worked on it, this is specifically what I did. And because of what I did, this is the resultant effect of what I did. So that's what I think should be in your portfolio. So while you're gathering, it's not just putting links and then links. I begin to wonder, okay, what exactly did you do? Were you the dev? Were you the designer? What was your role here? So it's good to specify what your role was and how that impacted the success of that project. So these are things you need to include on your very basic things you need to include on portfolio, because that's what we'll be looking out for when you look at your portfolio. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, so you can use Notion, and she also pointed out to trying as much as possible to ensure that you're able to highlight the important, your important role or your important accomplishments in the particular project, and including your Notion and all of that. I don't know, Isaac, if you'd like to also. Okay.
Nothing to add, really. Faith had covered everything. Notion is a great place, especially if you're a PM. Even for PMMs, Notion is a fantastic place. Yeah, if you're of course, there are other options like Behance, Dribble, GitHub. That's if you're a dev, right? And also even how you position yourself on LinkedIn as well. Could contribute to that. And then as you grow, you can probably go for a personal website. Well, I think Faith has really touched upon the core things you need to do. Yeah, so awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Isaac. Thank you very much, Pete. I think our time is fast spent already. We have 7 minutes past the proposed time for the event. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this call. Let me just give a roundup on conversation around what we do at Equates of Technology. So I said Equates of Technology is a workforce, talent development institute for, young people that are looking at getting into tech, either transitioning into tech. And we are very big on creating an employability ecosystem for young people as well. So you can feel free to, go up on our website, ecoinstitutetechnology.com. And you'll see, various tech learning programs. Although we're trying to design the model to come up with, numerous professional programs as well, like marketing analytics, data science for professionals, as well as even AWS training programs for young people. We do a lot around training and employability, and we are very big on helping young people get into tech. So you can see Faith here on the call, you can see Isaac here on the call. I know some of you might be wishing that one day I want to be a senior product manager. I don't know how to get it. you're a doctor or you're a nurse. I shared earlier on that we have people in the professional space, lawyers that are looking at, getting into tech. And this is because, we have numerous in-demand skill, and it will be very important for whichever profession you find yourself in to have a technical skill. And, you can, get in the website. I've dropped the link to join our EIT community for numerous opportunities in tech and get value from there. Yeah, thank you very much to great and amazing panelists, Faith and Isaac. It's indeed a pleasure hosting you on this call. And I also look forward to even, hosting you for, more value-filled events that we do at Eco Institute of Technology as well as Eco Innovation Center. I know Eco Innovation Center is a body on its own. Yeah, so thank you all for joining this call, and looking forward to having another insightful and interesting value-filled conversation in coming months. Mind you, this is a monthly webinar. We do this every month, January, February, March, April, and we bring in amazing people, professionals, high flyers doing great in the tech ecosystem to come share out of the wealth of experience and knowledge, to ensure that you people are able to get that right footing and right career positioning. Thank you all for, joining this call, and thank you, Isaac, thank you, Faith, for all you do. Look forward to more engagement from now, and have a great time, have a great weekend, and happy holidays. Bye.
All right, thanks guys. Have a great weekend as well.